Hello, friends. Happy Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And I am so happy to be back with you today, and where I'm featuring the Greenery Lane bundle from the Stampin' Up! 2026 January to April Mini Catalog. Now, this was an unexpected hiatus last week. We had, on Valentine's Day, we discovered that water had entered the second floor of our home. Not often you have a flood on the second floor. And we had a bit of a mess to clean up. We're still dealing with it. Everything's dry, but we're still awaiting repairs and insulation in the front wall of our home. And yeah, so it's just been quite the week. I am quite happy to be back crafting with you this week, I gotta say. Yeah, thinking about something other than insurance and cleanup and drywall and all of the things. So I am so happy to be back. I am sorry for my very abrupt having to cancel last week's episode, but it was just one of those days where I couldn't think straight, never mind craft. So I'm happy to be back with you today. Thanks for being understanding. And I am all about this amazing bundle. So Greenery Lane is one that is in the mini catalog. It has both stamps and dies and some coordinating washi tape. So if you recall, in the annual catalog, we have the Extraordinary Flora bundle, which also has coordinating washi tape. So this is similar, but a little bit different. So I'm going to show you the bundle and I'll explain what's different, and then we'll get to some crafting. So if you are joining me, whether you're watching live or catching the replay, let me know that you're here and where you're watching from. And I will take a moment to say hello as soon as I show you the bundle. So let me flip to my desk here. Here we go. So Greenery Lane, we have two-step stamping. So if you are not a fan of two-step stamping because you find it really hard to line up the images, first of all, we've got a really great promotion on right now with the stamping positioner, which will help you with this. But honestly, these are really, really forgiving. It's kind of like a painted watercolor look. So if you are not super precise when you're lining up your two-step images, it's not a big deal. Really, it's not. So we have these beautiful line art, sort of hand-drawn images, and then we have images to fill in the greenery on each one. We've got little bitty flowers, we've got some lovely sentiments, and then this large branch stamp. And then, of course, we have coordinating dies that cut out all of the stamped images, and then we get this extra bonus die, which just cuts out a leafy branch as well. So that's the bundle. And then, of course, we have the Greenery Lane washi tape. So unlike the Extraordinary Flora bundle, where you had one die that cut out the whole strip of washi at one time, this one you can pick and choose which branches you cut because all of the dies are individual. So if you have a color palette where you only want to use, for example, the garden green, you can pick and choose those ones rather than cutting everything out at once. This washi tape lasts you a long time. I have used a ton of it and I still have quite a bit left. And you can change up the look of it by putting it on different surfaces. So I often will just adhere it to white cardstock. You're going to see on my first card, I actually use basic beige, which kind of tones down the colors. You could even adhere it to acetate or window sheets to get a different look again. So really, really fun bundle, super versatile. Let me say hello before I get going here. I don't want to ignore all of you saying hi. Hi, Mia, welcome. Hi, Carol Ann. Welcome, welcome. Hi, Charlie. Yeah, we had a bit of a flood, as I mentioned, Charlie. It's been a week around here. Hi, Doris. Hi, Mary. Thank you for sharing, Doris. Hi, Gail and Jackie and Susan. Welcome, welcome. Hi, Terry and Alexina. Welcome. Hi, Leslie out in BC. Hi, Felicia in Pennsylvania. All right. Oh, you've had lots of fun playing with Greenery Lane. Excellent. Well, I hope I give you some additional ideas. All right, let's get to it. So our first card is this one. I posted it yesterday. It's got a little bit of a refined, kind of elegant look, I think in large part due to this beautiful striped embossing folder. And of course, the gold embossing. So this is a really quick one because it's just the washi tape, and I have already pre-embossed anything that needed to be embossed. So this is going to be a quickie. I always like to start with a quick one. So I'm starting with a 1x4 inch piece of white cardstock, and on it you can see I have heat embossed in gold one of the sentiments from the Greenery Lane stamp set, and then I'm going to mat it on a 1 1/8 by 4 inch piece of gold foil. So we're going to go ahead and layer those. And I'm going to try and get this straight. Okay, so there is our matted. That just looks so pretty with the little hint of gold peeking out. And then I have all sorts of little bits and pieces. So all of these are die cut from the washi tape. And as you can see on the back, I did adhere it to basic beige cardstock instead of white. And it gives a nice sort of toned down look. And what I also really like is it blends with the background. So it really makes the greenery, the actual image, stand out quite nicely. So we're going to do a little bit of floral arranging. I'm just going to take and put some seal down both along the top and bottom edges of my my sentiment strip here. And then I'm just going to arrange a few little bits of greenery here. So we're just going to add a few here and there. We'll add another one down here. Whoops, you don't want to stick. Come on, stick. There we go. Got to press a little harder with the washi. The washi is, well, it's tape, so it does adhere, but you do have to press a little bit more firmly than you normally might. So there we go. And then I also, whoop, you're going to pop right off of there. Let's try this again. We'll add a little bit more seal here. I don't recall this being a problem when I was making my sample, but there we go. Okay. Now we're going to take our panel, our embossed panel. So this is 4 by 5¼ inch basic beige, and I've embossed it using the lovely Stripes embossing folder. Now I want to say something about this folder. I have seen a lot of comments online about people having issues with it cutting right through their cardstock. You can see on mine that that has not happened to mine. I have not had a single issue with this folder like cutting through, being so deep that it cuts through. I have, my machine is a little bit older, so it may be that the tension's a little bit less. If you have a newer machine, you may have issues. I would suggest just playing around with the thickness of your sandwich, and I'm seeing if you can get it so that it's not embossing so deeply. But I'm using it as, you know, as required with the specialty plate, and I'm not having any issues. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to run some seal. Now, if I, as you can see, when I run my seal, it does peel the cardstock, but that is not uncommon. I'm going to run some seal across, and I may actually add a little bit to the back of my little branch here as well. So we're just going to kind of crisscross them in the middle there. And then we're just going to take our embossed sentiment and we're going to pop that up across the front. Now, not to worry, all these little guys are popping off. We're going to add some dimensionals, and that's going to kind of lock things down. I like to use seal when I'm arranging because then I can position and reposition as necessary. But as you can see with the washi, sometimes it doesn't want to stick because the washi is quite sheer. So you do need a little bit of supplemental adhesive there. So I'm going to get rid of my backing. Oh, already got that one. And we're going to pop this on. Now I'm going to use my grid paper to help me get this straight. So I'm going to line up my panel and then line up my piece with the grid lines, and all will be good. Okay. Then that is going to get adhered to a 4¼ by 11 inch piece of basic beige cardstock. So we'll just go ahead and fold that in half. Yes, Julie, the greenery pieces are adhered to basic beige cardstock, and then I die cut them. You could use any color of cardstock, really. It doesn't have to be basic beige. I like the way that the basic beige kind of fades into the background and makes the images pop. Now, one thing I should mention, when you emboss using this embossing folder, it does shrink your piece a little bit like widthwise. So you can see I had to trim a little bit off the edge because of the depth of the embossing. It does shrink it a little bit. So if you don't want to have to worry about that, I would suggest increasing the width of your piece by about 1/16 of an inch so that you get a true 4 by 5¼ inch piece when you're done embossing. All right, so let's pop this onto our card base. And we're going to give that a good burnish. You'll notice I use liquid glue. Liquid glue is best for embossed pieces because it gets into the nooks and crannies a little bit better. And then I'm going to come in with some of these, what are we calling these? Flower accents. These are from the annual catalog. And I love the brightness of the gold in these. They're almost brassy. And I really like that sort of bold brightness of it. And I also love the texture. So there we go. There is our finished card. How easy was that? Super, super simple. Okay. Now on the inside, I added a white panel and I just die cut a couple more pieces. That's what this guy's for, just to decorate on the inside. Kept it really simple. Okay. All right. It's not soft seafoam. It is basic beige, darling. Basic beige. Okay. All right. So we'll set that one aside. And we're going to come in with number 2. So that one was really quick. This is a little bit more involved, even though it's a really simple card. So this is number 2. So I am using some of our gorgeous Painted Illusions DSP, which is the product of the month this month. I'm going to show you the paper just in case you haven't had a good look at it. It is stunning. So we have, oh, am I missing a pattern? I am missing a pattern. Hold the phone. Let me grab the other pattern here. What am I missing? There it is. All right. So this pack, you get 4 sheets, or sorry, 4 patterns times 3 sheets. Okay. So it's still 12 pack, but you actually get 3 of each pattern, which I like because it gives me more of each one. So look at this beautiful paper. The gorgeous colors are stunning. And I love the soft waves. And look at this. Oh, this is my favorite of the bunch. And then, of course, on the back side, we have slightly more subdued. So here are our mermaid. This is our mermaid scales or fish scales. We've got this beautiful floral. We've got this quatrefoil. And then this lovely brocade. So absolutely love this paper. So I am going to be using several patterns from this paper on this card. So let me show you how easy this one is to put together. So I've just got a 4 1/4 by 11 inch card base. Okay. And I'm going to take my, what's this called? It's on the side, Heartfelt hexagon punch. And I am going to punch out the front of the card. So I don't know, that looks good. Doesn't really matter too much. You want to have a little bit of space there. And then with it closed, I'm going to stamp inside that window because you can see that my sentiment is on the inside, but also visible from the outside. So I'm using this Love and Hugs sentiment. And yeah, April, you can only order one, and there's a reason for that. It's so that we don't, it's kind of so that we don't all hoard paper, and it gives everybody a chance to get their hands on it. So yep, it's beautiful paper. So it's special paper. You can't get more. So you use it only for special projects, right? All right. So I'm stamping my sentiment in my Memento Black. And then I've got a whole bunch of punched hexagons here, like a whole bunch. So I kind of went with the blues and greens. And I'm just going to start. Ooh, I like this one. I'm going to start gluing pieces that align with my punched panel here. And I'm actually going to do this with it open because I find it easier. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on there. And you can decide how much of a gap you want here. That to me looks pretty good. And then I'm going to come in at the bottom. Oh, I think I want the green with a little bit of this. I'm actually going to put this on here. And again, I'm going to line this up just like that. Okay, so that's kind of your starting point. And then we're going to work in with additional patterns. So I'm going to come in with this nice blue. And sometimes I find it easier to actually put the glue on the card base rather than on the piece, because then I get glue all over my grid paper if I don't get it exactly where I need it. So I'm just kind of paying attention to the distance between my pieces and trying to be consistent all the way around. So again, a little bit of glue here with my little quatrefoil. There we go. And then over here, we'll come in with one of these. This one, I think I'm going to put it all over. So I'm going to get most of it on there. Here we go. What else we got? Let's do another quatrefoil over here. Once you get that first line on, the rest are pretty easy. It's kind of like laying tile. If you've ever done any home reno, I've got home renos on the brain. We had a flood from our shower into our kitchen over Christmas holidays, and now we've got this new one on the second floor. Honestly, I'm kind of done with water and it being in places I don't want it. But we are in the process of renovating our master bathroom as a result of said flood over Christmas. So I am all about tile patterns and how to lay mosaic or how to lay tile, because we're doing a lot of that these days. All right, so what do we need here? We're going to trim these off. I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to trim these guys off because I want to use a piece of this on the other side. So the bonus of doing it this way is you can still use these pieces that we trim off, right? We're not going to waste them. So I'm going to trim that one off, and I'm going to use it over on, oh no, I'm not, because I got one right there. What am I going to do? I'm going to trim off the blue one. That's what I'm going to do. Let's trim that one off. There we go. Yes, water issues. I'm just kind of over it. It's been quite the year of water mishaps, I tell you. Thankfully, we just got confirmation that our insurance is going to cover the damage and the repairs. So that was a little bonus. We were not sure whether they were going to cover it. So they wouldn't let us know until, of course, they'd had done all their inspections and all the T's had been crossed and I's had been dotted. And we finally got confirmation late last week that they were going to cover it. So now we're just waiting on the repair company to come and finish the job. All right, I'm going to add one of these little guys down here, just a little smidge down in the corner. Again, paying attention to my spacing. And then what are we going to put up here? Let's do one of these guys up here. So again, just a little bit of glue. Oops, that may have been too much. And we'll pop that one on. Okay, and then I'm just going to let that sit for a moment before I trim the rest off, just to make sure everything's adhered. I don't want anything to move while I'm trimming it. So while that is sort of setting, I'm going to show you how easy it is to stamp these images. So I have already gone ahead and stamped and die cut most of them, but I did want to show you how easy it is to do them. So I'm going to use my upside down stamping trick. Whenever I'm doing a whole bunch of images like this, I find it easier to just die cut a bunch of blanks and then stamp with my stamp upside down. That's why I call it my upside down stamping trick, and line my blank up on the block. So I've inked my stamp. I'm going to lay my blank on top of the stamp, and then I'm going to take another block and just press. Isn't that easy? Okay, and then to line up the inside image, I'm going to ink again, stamp off, and then stamp on my image. Okay, now this is Lost Lagoon that I'm using. I've also done some in Pretty Peacock. I just realized this one isn't stamped. Where is my image? It is over here. It's in another bin. There's that. Oh, that's not the right one. All right, we're not going to worry about stamping that one because I don't have that one mounted. We'll just make do with what we got. All right. Okay, so those are all my images ready to go, all my die cuts. I think I'm good to trim this now. So we'll flip this over and give this a trim. So I'm just using the edge of the card base as a guide, lining up the edge of my scissors so I get a nice straight cut. I'm not trying to eyeball it from the front. Bad things happen when you try to do that. So I'm just kind of letting my scissors run along the edge of my card base. And that way you get nice straight edges. And then same thing across the top. This is especially important that you not cut your card base because it's the fold. So you don't want to veer off course there. And there we go. Isn't that a great background and such a great way to use up scraps? All right, so now we're going to go ahead and sort of build our arrangement. So I have here two of that sort of bonus die cut branch, cut from Vellum, and then two cut from Granny Apple Green cardstock. So I'm going to just lay down some seal here. I'm going to lay my Vellum one and the same one on the bottom. I'm going to cut some of this off the bottom because I don't want it to come down quite as far. All right, and then same thing, I'm going to put a little bit more seal and we're going to add our Granny Apple one. I'm going to offset it a little bit. And then same thing with this one, I'm going to trim it off. And we're going to offset that one this way. Okay, and then we're just going to take all of our little bits and pieces here and kind of arrange them. It's really just floral arranging 101. So I'm going to pop some of these up. We'll add a couple of dimensionals. So this guy is going to kind of come up this way. And then this one's going to actually kind of tuck in behind. So we're going to glue that one flat. Just a bit of seal. And I'm going to tuck it in behind. Like that. And then we're going to add a couple of these guys coming down the bottom. So 1 and 2 dimensionals. I'll add that kind of coming down here. This little guy is going to kind of tuck in here. So again, it's going to be flat. Just kind of tucked under there. And one more little guy. Where are we going to put this guy? We'll tuck him in up here. And we'll pop him up as well. And we'll tuck it in right about there. Okay, now this area is going to get covered because we're going to bring some of our, this is our garden green chevron ribbon. It's an 1/8 of an inch wide, and I'm cutting a fairly long length because I'm actually going to wrap this around. I don't often do this, but because we're going to see it on the inside, I don't want to use glue dots and see them there. So we are going to wrap it around and tie a little bow. So I just kind of want to make sure I hit where those stems all meet. And we'll tie our bow. Hopefully I got it looking decent. There we go. And then I'm going to tuck a glue dot underneath the knot just so that it holds, so it doesn't slide around. So I'm just going to take a glue dot with my take your pick here and tuck it in and just stick it down so that it stays put. And then let's trim off some tails so they're not quite as long. There we go. And then our last touch is some of our, what are these called? Green somethings. What are they? Where did I put them? Green, they're from the turtles in the annual catalog. What the heck are they called? Something hexagons. I don't know. I can't find my case for them. But anyway, somebody can look it up and tell me. They come in all sorts of different shades. I'm going to use this sort of aqua green because it works really well with my colors on here. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3 little hexagons, and we're done. Okay, so a pretty easy card. I mean, you're just gluing on a whole bunch of hexagons, but it certainly has a wow with that gorgeous DSP. You write you would write your greeting over on this side, Felicia, so that it's not visible, right? So we would see our greeting there, but you could write your handwritten greeting on the left side. Okay. All right, so that is number 2. Clean up my mess. All right, our last project today is a fun little fun fold. So this is a twisted easel book fold. So you're all familiar with the book fold. It's got our spine here, but this one is a little twist. It pops up. We get this fun little triangle. So I'm going to show you how to do this. It's a pretty easy fun fold. So if you are fairly new to fun folds, this is a good one for those who maybe don't have a lot of confidence and don't want to do a whole bunch of fancy measuring. So let me show you how to put this one together. To start, we have a 4 1/4 by 11 inch, or yes, 4 1/4 by 11 inch piece of thick basic white cardstock. Okay. It is scored in 2 spots. So it's scored at 5.5, which is our regular score line. It's also scored at 4 1/4. Okay. So 4 1/4, 5.5. Now I am going to fold that 4 1/4 inch score line just so that we can see it a little bit better, because we're now going to do a diagonal score from the bottom of that 4 1/4 inch score line up to the top right corner. Okay, we're going to score on the diagonal. So when I do this, let me just move my sample out of the way. I like to actually use my bone folder in my the track of my trimmer rather than my scoring blade, just because I feel like I have a little bit more control. So I'm lining up the bottom of that 4 1/4 inch score line with my cutting track, and then the top right corner. Can you see that? So lined up there and there. I'm going to close my paper guide, and then I'm going to come in with my bone folder, and I'm going to score. Again, just because I feel like I have a little bit more control. All right, so you can see there. Can you see it? There's my score line. Okay. All right, that's all there is to it, really. That's all the fancy anything. So let's go ahead and fold the rest of our score lines. So we'll fold in half, just like we would a regular card. We've got our 4 1/4 inch score line, and then we're going to fold this diagonal one we just did under. Okay. And if you've scored properly, you should get a nice, it should match up there evenly. Okay, so you can see how that's going to pop up like that. All right, now we get to decorate. So let's pull in all our bits here. So I have I'm going to mat. Okay, so to do these triangles, I have started with a piece of pool party cardstock that was 4 1/8 inch square. Okay, then I cut it on the diagonal. Same thing goes for this. This DSP is from the Square Snippets pack. This is one of the 4x4 squares from that pack. Again, it was a 4x4. I cut in half on the diagonal. All right. Now, before we do anything, we're going to do a little bit of stamping on these two pieces. So I have where is that little image? Here it is. I'm going to use this little image with the sort of sprigs, and I'm going to do a little bit of stamping along the long side of my triangle. So I'm just going to kind of come across. I'm stamping tone on tone, so I'm using Strawberry Slush ink on my Strawberry Slush DSP, and I'm just kind of stamping along that long edge. Okay, then I'm going to come in with this itty bitty flower stamp, and I'm just going to add a couple flowers here and there. So this is just to add a little interest to the front of our card. This DSP it's got a bit of texture, but it doesn't have, there's a very subtle sort of tone on tone pattern, and I wanted something a little bit more pronounced. Okay, so that is that. All right, so now we can go ahead and layer our DSP on our pool party triangles. You are going to have a very, very narrow border. In fact, if you like, you can actually line up the bottom edges, and you'll have a 1/16 of an inch border all the way around. If you want to have an even narrower border, you can slide up so you see a little bit of it along the bottom edge. I'm actually going to line it up flush so that I just have a border around the outer edges rather than the diagonal. So we're going to just lay this on here. You definitely want to use liquid glue for this because you do need some time to get things aligned. Okay, so there's one. And two. So you can see I'm lining up that long edge flush with the long edge on the pool party triangle. So when I put it together, I will have a border around the outside and not in the middle. well, I'll see the white border from the card base. Okay. All right. Now we can go ahead and glue these on. So we're going to glue one on each segment of our easel here. I'm going to open this out because it's a little bit easier to do that way. So again, a little bit of liquid glue. And we're going to pop this on. And again, I'm going flush, well, not flush, a little bit of a border with that score line. And then same thing on this one. Okay, so that is my card front, and then we're going to work on our spine. So for the spine, I have a piece of Pool Party cardstock. This is 1 1/8 by 4 1/8. And then I have another pattern from the Square Snippets DSP that is 1 by 4. Okay, so we're going to layer those. Actually, before we do, we're going to add our ribbon. Where did my ribbon go? I'm going to add some of our more of our, what is this called? Chevron ribbon. I'm going to grab a glue dot. Thanks, Colleen. It's nice to be back. It certainly was not a fun week, not even a little. I will be very happy when it's all fixed and put back together. I'm kind of over all the boxes everywhere. We have boxes of stuff. I have a desk in the middle of my bedroom that I bang my arm on every time I get up in the night to use the washroom. It's not fun having a mess in your house, but I know it will eventually end. So I just added a little bit of that chevron ribbon just down the center of my DSP strip. And now I am matting it on that 1 1/8 by 4 1/8 inch piece of Pool Party cardstock. So I'm just going to give that a really good burnish. And then we are going to adhere that to that spine portion of our card front. A little bit of glue. And we'll pop that on. And you just want to pay attention to make sure your edges line up with the triangle so it looks continuous. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and glue the spine down. So I find liquid glue best for doing this. You certainly could use tear and tape. I find seal doesn't hold quite well enough. Liquid glue for me is the best for this because it does get a fair bit of wear and tear. So I'm just going to give that a really good burnish, and you can see how that's going to pop up. All right, now we are going to do, we're going to do a little stamping of our sentiments. So I've got my thank you. This again is from the Greenery Lane stamp set. Yes, you are right, Mia. I have done gift card holders that way before. It is a great fold for that. All right, so I'm stamping my thank you. This little banner is from the Stylish Shapes dies. So I'm just stamping my thank you in Strawberry Slush. And I'm going to layer that. Now, before I do, I'm going to add my greenery. So I've got a whole bunch of sprigs cut here. I went ahead and pre-stamped these just because you don't need to watch me stamp a million sprigs. You know how it's done. So I'm going to use this long one, kind of on a diagonal, this way. And then I'm going to use the smaller one on a diagonal the other way, kind of like that. Okay. Then we're going to pop it up on, this is another banner from the Stylish Shapes. This is die cut from Pool Party cardstock. We're going to pop this up and then we're going to add some flowers. So we'll layer those. And we're going to center that on our larger banner. And then I've got a whole bunch of itty bitty flowers. Now, word to the wise, definitely die cut blanks of these. These are a pain in the neck to line up. I hate lining up little teeny tiny dies. It's like my #1 pet peeve. So I always cut blanks and then just stamp on the blanks. It's really easy to do and far less frustrating. So that is my, I don't know, public service announcement, I guess, for these. Do not try to die cut the stamped image. It will drive you crazy. So we're going to stick these all onto our glue dots, just like this. And then I can take my take your pick and arrange them. It's much easier to do it this way than to try to fuss with liquid glue or seal or anything else. This is quick and dirty and quite straightforward. So I'm just kind of arranging my flowers against my greenery here. Tuck one up under here. Come on. There we go. And then one more. So I should mention these flowers, the pink ones are Pretty in Pink cardstock and strawberry slush ink. And then the yellow ones are Lemon Lolly cardstock and Daffodil Delight ink. Okay. All right. Now, how are we going to attach this? We have to think about the fact that when we pop this up, this side cannot be adhered, right? So we're only going to put our adhesive on the right end. So I'm going to flip this over so that I can see exactly where I can safely put my adhesive. I am going to use dimensionals. If you are worried about thickness and postage, you certainly could glue this part flat. I never worry about that kind of stuff. Okay, so I've got my dimensionals on. Now I can flip this back over and adhere my sentiment and know that I'm still going to be able to pop up my card. Can you see that? Okay. All right, so we are going to add a bow here on the front, and then we're going to do a little bit of work on the inside. So let's take our ribbon. We'll tie a little bow. I love this ribbon. It goes with so many things. It's from the Hobby Haven suite, which was, I think, a November online exclusive release. And I have used a ton of it. So I'm going to just take a glue dot. I'm going to press the knot of my bow into a glue dot. And then we're just going to pop that on. I like to do it opposite the sort of the notch in my, oh, that's not centered. Let's center it over the ribbon, shall we? There we go. Okay. Now on the inside, we need something to catch our easel, and we're also going to decorate. So I did a little bit of stamping on the inside, you can see. So we're going to open this up and we're going to stamp sort of in this bottom corner. So I'm going to come in with my Garden Green ink. And we're going to stamp a couple of these guys. And then we're also going to stamp one of these, just like that. And then I'm going to come in the same shade of ink, but stamp off to line these up. So again, you don't have to be super precise with these. It's really quite forgiving. So there's 1 and 2 and 3, just like that. Okay. And then our last touch is another little sprig on the inside, which is going to act as a catch for our easel. And we're going to add a couple of flowers to it as well. So I'm going to add, again, a couple of flowers to my glue dots here. And I find it easiest to glue these on before I actually stick it inside the card. So we're going to arrange our little flowers. Just like that. And then I'm going to add a couple of mini dimensionals on the back because we need it to be raised if it's going to catch our easel, right? So I'm going to get rid of my backings. And then I'm going to stand this up as far as I want it to go. And then I'm just going to adhere my little sprig here. And there you go. Wasn't that easy? So easy to make a fun little easel card. All right, so let me clean up my mess and bring back all of our projects. So we got 1, 2, and 3 today, and then I have a whole bunch more. So don't go away. I've been crafting with this bundle quite a bit. So let me show you a few more. So this one was from an event I did, a launch event that I did. It uses the Stone and Vine embossing folder in the background. And then here is a sneak peek. This DSP is coming next week with the new online exclusive release. Here is some more Square Snippets DSP in fall tones. What I love about this bundle is that it works for any occasion, any season. So just by changing your color palette, you can go spring, summer, winter, or fall. Here's a fun fold I did. This is the January product of, was it January? Yes, January product of the month. No, maybe it was December. This was December's. But again, so pretty in shades of blue. And then here's a SWAT card that I received as well. So many ideas, and it's so versatile. All right, let me just look back and see if there were any questions that I missed. All right. Yeah, it's a simple card, Deb, but it really does have a wow factor. You're right. Yeah, the DSP is gorgeous, Felicia. I absolutely love this paper. Okay. All right. I don't think I missed any questions. So let me come back to me and say thank you for joining me. Thanks for coming back after my unexpected hiatus last week. I will keep you posted. I heard from the restoration company somebody's supposed to be coming to put some insulation in the wall tomorrow. So that will warm our house up significantly because it has been well below freezing the last couple of nights. So we're looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to it all being done, but I will keep you posted. But for now, thank you for joining me this week. I hope you have a great week, and I will hopefully see you next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.